let's drop ourselves into a drafter, and we don't have to name a year, but you've been in plenty, Mike, and Scott, you've been around them in multiple sports. When it comes to making a high pressure decision in those environments, so let's say you're on the clock, the order just shifted significantly because of who the previous two teams picked, or new information has come to light, or there's a trade on the table. Talk us through the pressure that is felt in that room, Mike. And then, Scott, maybe you can narrate it as almost a director's cut of what's happening psychologically for these people and how we optimize our decisions under pressure.
We live that in a very public way. Laremy Tunsil in 2016 was the number one player on our board. And unfortunately for him, there was a video that came out soon before the draft that was just bad timing. He was a good person that made a mistake. We had a good player at his position, Brandon Albert, and we did not need a left tackle. And we're sitting there, we're like, there's no way the best player in the draft's going to be there at 13 anyways. We don't have to worry about it. Next thing, it's 9, it's 10, it's 11. It's, oh my gosh, he may be there. And we all had this pit in the stomach. And it was the first year our management team was together. And so there was certainly like some breaking in feeling with that. That became one of those situations, like you talk about high performance. And I'll tell you, it was a great lesson for me, great lesson for my kids. That in the most consequential moments, you want to fall back on your preparation. And we had a great area scout, a guy named Matt Winston, who had incredible information on Laremy Tunsil, who is a fantastic person, great teammate, loved football, had a great relationship with his family, and obviously was a good person that made a mistake. And in the most like pressure-packed moment of making a decision that could impact your franchise for years to come, we fell back on the most mundane, rudimentary, basic area report of this guy loves football, he's a good person, and we're making this huge decision. And we're like, you know what? These other teams were certainly scared away by what was happening. And we felt great about our preparation and made what we thought was the best decision for us.
Yeah, a fantastic example, very tangible example for people who follow the NFL. They'll be clear on that memory. And it was a huge buzz around that incident and the subsequent drop in the standings for Laremy, and then the move that you guys made. And it struck me at the time as obviously a tangible thing that would reflect on a team poorly if it went south, but it seemed to be a fairly short-term move. And so I'm interested, Scott, from a psychological standpoint, what's going on for executives like Mike and everyone else who's in that room, and the owners and coaches who are involved in this decision, weighing up what the public will say about this move and what the potential costs and embarrassment might be if we take the kid and it doesn't work out, versus the longer term, trusting your process. Okay, we're going to take the punt, excuse the pun, that Mike and co did with Laremy.
Part of what I omitted from my career trajectory opus was that I spent 6 years working in a psychiatric hospital. And I bring it up now because you said, hey, the experience of life or death decision-making, like I've actually been in a few life or death, like psychiatric riots, more than a few actively suicidal individuals who are in the midst of an attempt. And I would be curious to hear if emergency department physicians and other special operations and military would say something similar of what I experienced, which was I actually found the life or death moment to have more clarity in vision and execution than the things that, and I will underline this word, perceived life or death threat. So I actually think like the executives and the coaches that are deciding, should we go for it on 4th down? Should we select a guy who had a bad timed video be released? There is so much more discussion and debate because it's a perceived threat than an actual threat that I think in some ways almost makes it a more difficult decision.
Harder.
Yeah, it's a harder decision to pick a guy, and yet the life-saving moment is a more significant or important decision. So I think there's an interesting paradox there.
Yeah.
Now, going to answer your question specifically of how do you help people, I think a big part of it is about risk management, decision-making. So there's all kinds of literature in psychology about choosing to lose versus, it's like playing not to lose versus playing to win, or when you've got two decisions, as you get closer to committing to one, it will start to look less attractive than the one that you're moving further away from. So I think that there's a lot of elements to helping people go through the process that psychology can play. I think one of the biggest ones is the confirmation bias that comes with excitement. So I think there's two things. One is confirmation bias, where all of a sudden we only look at the data that seems to align with what we already believe. I love this guy. And then the other one is group polarization, where somebody in the room goes, I love this guy for X, Y, and Z reasons. And then somebody else jumps on that and goes, I love him for 1, 2, 3 reasons. And then before you know it, you've got the whole room believing that this is Superman, and you're not looking at what are his kryptonites and stuff like that. And so I think being mindful of really sound psychological training can help guide these folks to making well-informed decisions.
Yeah, I love that. And that's, again, a reason why I mentioned not just having psychology in the room when things are going bad. It's the in advance preparation of even executives, coaches for decision and play calling, the ability to manage their own states and have their own processes that'll optimize that for when the shit does hit the fan.